podcast. This podcast is all about equipping, encouraging, and inspiring youth pastors weekly with topics that are brought to the table by youth pastors from all over the world. And now, here's your host for this week, Melissa Stevenson.
Hey y'all, Melissa here with Student Ministry Conversations. We're so glad that you have joined us today. Be sure to check out our website for more information, blog articles, or to find show notes about this episode at studentministryconversations.org. You can find all about our other hosts and all kinds of other things that are just neat and interesting. Today, I've got my friend Justin here, and Justin and I met because he was kind of helping me with a college ministry program that didn't really take off well, not of his fault, but we were kind of right after COVID, and from McMurray University. So he finished a degree, but now he's not using that degree, and I want to talk about that because I think it's really interesting. So, Justin, will you introduce yourself, tell what you're doing now, and a little bit of how you got to where you are right now?
Yeah, for sure. So, man, this is such a interesting question because it goes all around. The first place it starts is I guess right after I graduated from McMurray, 2020, the good old COVID year that shut everything down. I was lucky enough to actually land a position at a church right after I graduated, and that was over at in Arlington at Trinity United Methodist Church. It was a great experience. I spent 2 years there where I was the youth director. The student ministry there was one that was going through a lot of changes pretty consistently because I don't know if I should air out all of the laundry, but...
That's okay. We can speak over it. Yeah.
Right.
I think we all get changes usually is like, yeah.
Changing the church is just something, it's like... weed on rye. It just happens.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of change that happened there that led up to me going there. And so once I stepped in, we were able to basically have a culture to where the student ministry started to grow again, started to experience life, started to experience, the word that I'm looking for, my church uses it all the time. Fellowship. They started experiencing fellowship with They started experiencing fellowship with each other again, versus it just being like, hey, what's coming next all the time. And so it was a super fruitful time, not only for the students but also for me because it was my first real ministry experience where I was in the church full time doing the 40 hours a week there. And then making ministry happen.
Because you'd been pulled into another United Methodist church when you were in college that just needed someone on Sunday. That was out here in the boonies. And so, but this was the first time full time,
Yes,
right?
exactly. So there 40 hours a week, got the full team around you, and making things happen together. So it was a good experience, and the students at that church definitely found a place in my heart because I don't think it's possible to do youth ministry without truly becoming connected to the students in some type of way. Mm-hmm. And so I spent 2 years there and eventually had the opportunity to pursue my degree at a company called Icy Breeze, actually. And it was a cooler type company. And it was someone that I met when I was actually at that first church role out in the boonies. And so that gave me that opportunity. So I stepped into there. I worked there for a year. Realized that working in the corporate space is, it's crazy because the best way that I can explain it is to say it's not caring for the soul.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
And it's especially coming from a church role and then stepping into that role. It was quite a cultural shock, a serious shift in ideology to how you deal with people, how you talk with people, especially when it did come to like a customer service role that I was also having to portray while I was there too. And because
your degree is not in religion.
No. What is my degree is actually in marketing. And so when I went to this position with Icy Breeze. It was to do marketing. It was for social media marketing. It
Right.
was for doing the customer service roles, doing the sales, and so on. And I did that for a year before I kind of came to the conclusion that this isn't really where I believe God is calling me to be. He pulled me out here for something, and I'm at that time also trying to figure it out about a year ago, because I actually left about 1 year ago. And so we've now stepped into, once I left there, I started at another church. I'm actually over at Potosi Baptist Church now, where...
Oh, yeah, because you called me for a visit.
Yes, that's so true. So I stepped in as a student ministry leader, but also as the worship leader at the same time over there, which that's its own story in itself, because music has slowly over the time started progressing into whatever ministry looked like for me. Especially at Trinity, when I was over there, I stepped into we called it the Thrive service. It's your Methodist church, and so like you got the traditional service.
This is the one in Arlington,
yeah,
right?
you got your traditional service, you got your contemporary service, and so I stepped into helping with the contemporary service through leading worship with them, and not being the leader. All I was the acoustic guitar player that sang vocals every once in a while, and that was really what started to catapult me forward into where we are today. Which opened the door for Potosi Baptist for me to step in as the worship leader. And I also had the knowledge behind being a youth leader going into there. However, over time, after I was at the church for around a year, I did step out of youth ministry. I have officially stepped out of youth ministry from there. And that's because I got married. And so that gave me the chance. Thank you, I appreciate it. But no, Pastor Ben was super gracious to me about it, and he said, hey, it's super important to cultivate a marriage. And so we had long conversations. We felt that I was going to be best serving with the worship ministry and so on. So that's where I've been ever since. However, I did also take another role, which in December, which was with Enterprise. Mobility, or everyone knows it as Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So, and so I've been working there since December also. So, again, still playing the line between both of them. So it's been an interesting time.
Okay, so we're playing with the chat GPT today just because I had things in my head. I'm just gonna be honest. I had things in my head, but they were not coming together to be questions, and so I put them into the chat GPT. I've never used it before, but I wanted to try it, right? So you are my guinea pig here. But you said the first question it came up with was like really like on the money there. So it says, well, what initially inspired you to start a worship band, which is what is all over you right there. Rather than pursuing a career related to your business degree.
Yeah.
So let's talk about clay worship. How did we get to
that? So I want to start with this just because I think this is going to be the mind-blowing statement. And this is crazy because I think most people don't want to think this way, but to be honest, it's all one and the same. To an extent, there is a business side to everything that needs to be done. Now, whether it's...
That is true.
Well, because for one thing, you have to learn to act professionally. You have, in everything you're doing. And especially with a worship team. And we haven't even really gotten into talking about them yet. But it's an amazing group, and I'm excited to talk about it. But with a worship team, especially one that's not a part of one single church, we're not... it's not like we're at a church and then on Sundays and then we just all come together every time there's an opportunity for something and we're just pull the church music and just play it there. We are all spread out between different denominations, between different churches, and we come together to do what we believe the church is called to do, which is live in harmony with one another. And work together to spread the gospel no matter what denomination you're in. Now, one of the biggest things is we definitely care about theology. And so we will make sure that we align theologically before we step into anything. And all of us align theologically to the point of any first area issues in the church. Like who is Jesus? Who is God? What is the Trinity? Etc. And so that's what this group has definitely become. And to answer your question, though, between the worship band and like a business side of things, it's all going to be the same, as if we are presenting something with one mission statement, and that is to share the name of Jesus Christ everywhere that we go, everywhere that we play music, and we use our abilities. We present a professional atmosphere when we come and play, and you're going to receive a product that is professional from us, but at the same time, it is going to be from a place of worship. Like, we've put the work in, we've done the things that we need to do to make sure that it's going to be what you have pulled us in for, but at the same time, it's going to be worship. And the Holy Spirit leads. We draw attention to Jesus every time, and we just thank God for bringing us all together to do this amazing thing that's been happening.
Well, and that makes sense, because you could have a worship band, but if you don't have anybody doing a website or telling other people, or getting your name out there, you're not going to be able to play anywhere, and therefore you're not going to be able to spread that message out to other people. And if you are accepting money for these things, which I hope you are, then someone's going to have to keep track of that, and where's all the expenses, and how is everyone going to get a good part of that, and how is it going to be fair, which is all in our business classes. So I don't know if our friends here know this, but I also have a marketing degree, but I'm working on a religion degree. But I have noticed that there is so much that my marketing degree has helped me at my desk over there doing youth ministry, with budgets and with planning events, and how am I going to market this event so other people know about it and come and hear about how cool our church is, and then our pastor can tell them, about all these other things. So it's interesting how I think those two things go together that we don't normally think of. Well, and it's also how sometimes people with education degrees are awesome in youth ministry, because they have those child development classes and they have the discipline classes. And so youth ministry is a weird little thing, and kind of in the same thing with worship ministry, that there's a lot of things that go into it that is not just, here's the Bible, go do your job.
100%. And one of the things that I've noticed from a lot of pastors that I've been under and have got to spend some time underneath is that every time they talk about seminary, they realize that they did not get the business side. They did not receive the technical side, because so many churches nowadays are working with really expensive gear in their churches. Yes. And pastors know nothing about it a lot of the time because they weren't trained about it.
But we're expected to. Right? And that's the crazy part. That is not in any of the classes I'm taking right now. It's nowhere near in any of the curriculum that we're working on. But we're expected to know about
and
it,
it's really hard to lead people through stuff that you don't know. Now, I mean, it happens all the time. God's grace is always going to be over if your heart is aligned with it, if you're operating within God's will. Yeah. But God will lead you through that, but it's really difficult to be like, hey, I have no clue what's going on. I've never been in this predicament before, so just come along for the ride. Or say, like, hey, I know this looks rough. I know some churches coming out of COVID went through a deficit just in money, just because, well, and then on top of other things also. But there's been that issue, and there's been a lot of pastors that are probably leading for the first time through deficits in churches. And how do you go about that?
Well, because we had a lack of giving because we weren't here, but then we also had new technological expenses, like having to do all of our stuff online, and cameras and lights and all of that fun stuff that was, I'm thinking, not in our budgets in January of 2020. That was not on
that happened a lot when I was at Trinity, because I stepped in during the COVID time. They bought 2 brand new Blackmagic cameras, They completely relighted both worship atmospheres. So, I mean, that stuff is all going down, and it's a lot of money that's going through.
Yeah, pretty penny.
With a lot less money coming in. And so that's hard to lead through. How do you lead through budget cuts? How do you do stuff like that? And so I think that's where, if people would take the time to do multiple different things, especially in your younger years, you really start to experience ways to lead through those.
Yeah. I think having business minors on religion degrees would not be the worst
Not at all.
idea. Yeah, because there's lots of things that especially budgets that we have to figure out how to do. Okay, so how do you think the background in business influenced your approach when you were starting and managing Play Worship?
Yeah.
I know, so your partner in crime, Miguel, and I talked about this the other day. He said y'all have kind of split up these responsibilities, but you each still have your little
Exactly. And I will throw a little bit of props to Enterprise right now. Because right now I am in a management trainee program with them. And I've got to learn all these specific techniques to leadership that have been phenomenal. And the first thing that I started doing, and I'm going to throw a shameless plug in there, I have always loved listening to Craig Rochelle's leadership podcast. There's so many great little things in there. And one of the things was that he always talks about that I have fully grasped onto is the thought of, if someone can do something as 60% as good as you, or even 50% as good as you, give it to them, because I guarantee you they're going to become better than you in the future. So, 100%, because like the more you, and if I can't give my time like they can to that one specific role, then of course they're going to become better than me, because as time goes on, they're going to get more reps than I ever did, which is a good thing, because a lot of people can also get nervous about other people on the team that are able to do things just as good as them, and so on. There's a lot of pride.
We get, and we get scared of being kicked out of the role that we're currently in because they're doing it better. Which, that's one of the things I've grown as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
That I don't have to be the best at everything, and I don't have to control everything. That if I get more people on the team that have the buy-in, and this is especially with volunteers, right? If they have the buy-in, and then they also have the feeling of belonging, then they're likely just to take all of the things I want to do anyway, and let's do them better, and I'm not as
100%.
down.
And the way that we have actually broken down our group, so me specifically, I act more as our account executive, if we want to put it in a way. So the special term for that is just sales, in a way. I do the sales for the group.
Right.
Like, I'm the connection. I'm the point person for everyone to come to. I make the deals with everyone, etc. I'm like how we make things happen and so on. Monique, she's one of our vocalists. She's our networker, and she does phenomenal at networking. She's the one that's always throwing out like ideas. How do we get out to someone and so on. Ricky, he's also one of our other vocalists, but he actually just graduated from Hardin-Simmons with a worship ministry degree. So, and that's super cool, because what we were just talking about with like the technological side that pastors don't get and so on, he got to experience all that in school with that degree over at Hardin-Simmons.
That's awesome.
And so he's taken on all the technological stuff for us. Like, what are we needing to purchase so that we can sound great no matter where we're going, no matter what gear that they have, etc. How can we be self-sufficient? Miguel, our lead guitarist, and Aiden, our keys player, they've teamed up to do our social media. And so they spend more time thinking about, like, okay, what kind of posts can we make? How do we get everyone together to make things happen, etc. But the best part about all of it is that we come together and we all are able to throw our ideas in. And the person that's running that area of the group, they have the 100% ability to say no to anything we say. But they also know that they're not doing it alone. So even if an idea is not exactly what needs to happen at the time, it's okay, because there's going to be another idea that comes from the group at that time, or at the time that's needed, that will then propel us forward.
Well, and it sounds like to me that they all have authority over their own section, so everyone has the same kind of equal
100%.
footing.
Yep.
Did you say that? Yeah. And that's a really good feeling in a group too, that you're not under someone.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
That sounds like a really good group dynamic. Sounds like y'all are just doing really good at that.
We've attempted to, and the weirdest part that we're still kind of fighting out, and I say fighting out, but it's more just kind of like, how are we gelling this all together, is honestly the songwriting portion. Because I
saw Miguel and Aiden's songwriting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So they might have to get there for you.
And they've one of the other things that when anyone was coming into the group that I told them, I was like, I don't want this to affect your individual music careers or be a burden for you in any type of way, because the idea of this is just, we're coming together to worship together. Yes, we're going to write songs. Yes, we're going to put it out, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, every time I hear that you're writing, like, or are you writing a clay song, or why aren't you writing a clay song, or anything like that. Like, that's not fun, and that ruins the atmosphere of the group anyways, because everyone has their certain styles that they bring, and if you can explore your style by yourself, all it's going to do is show up a little bit more in each one of our songs too, and it'll make everything that we do super unique.
That does make sense. And then it doesn't stifle the creativity that they now have to only write songs for 5 people. The number's right? Yeah. Versus if they were writing a solo song. Like, well, I can't work on that because it didn't have enough parts for everybody. But if that's what God is putting in their head that they need to get out on that pad of paper, I like that you're not stifling that or keeping that where they have to hide it even.
Yeah, and don't hide it, because I want to hear your songs. I want to hear what you're doing, because I just love being creative. I love hearing other people be creative. I feel like we can get into roles where it gets so mundane, whatever we're doing, that we stop being creative because we just go with the things that have worked.
Do you think that has anything to do with the whole like business side versus the worship side in your world? That do you feel like you can be creative in your business job versus here, or is this your creative time over in doing the worship? There's a certain amount of creativity. I mean, to be honest, it's a lot of a sales role, and so the creativity that I get to experience in that is, how do I talk with people? How am I expanding on the things that I'm saying? How am I presenting in a way that makes sense? How do I convince someone of my side of things, and so on. Over here, if you really think about, there's a lot of that's in preaching.
100%.
Like in ministry, like we're trying to do all those things to get people on Jesus' side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's true. My dad has always said this to me, and I've always looked at him like, what are you saying? Every time he says it, and then, no, it makes sense, That's crazy. He's always been like this, even though my degree was in marketing, and once I really hit my junior year in college, I started to feel that real pull to ministry. He was like, everything that you're studying is going to translate in some type of way. It's going to teach you how to present. It's going to teach you how to just have regular conversations with people that, for one thing, is beneficial to people. I know when it comes to presenting the gospel, there have been multiple different ways that it's been done. And there's a lot of ways that it's done that's super unhealthy. And I guess, and I don't know if this really ties in with the degree or not, but I think I will say it does, because at least when you're really early in school, you're learning how to write papers and present arguments in papers. So I would venture to say that your schooling does help your ministry in some type of way, especially in that way.
Oh yeah.
And so,
I used to say I market for God. Like I did my marketing degree. I market God
yeah,
now. But I did notice paper writing for school when I was there the first time, it was one way. And then writing sermons is another way.
100%.
And now I'm back in school again and I have to write them the first way again and it makes my brain hurt. So luckily being a religion major, they kind of squished
yeah.
together. But for a while there, I was like, oh, wait, I can't. I'm writing a sermon, not a research paper, and I need to switch my writing technique. Like the voice, I guess, would probably be the proper way to say
Yeah.
that.
There is a little bit of a difference when you're going from a narrative type storytelling to a, I guess let's just look at this analytical, doctoral way of talking.
It probably made my entrepreneurship papers way better.
Honestly, yeah.
Like they were probably more entertaining when I was having to, for entrepreneurship class, when I was finishing up my degree, I was already here. And so you had to come up with a business idea and do all of the steps to start this business to make it work. And that was the big class project. And at the time I was here and I think it had to have been spring semester because I was getting ready for mission trip. And so I emailed my professor and I said, can my mission trip just be my business? Like all these steps are there, to planning a mission trip, to raising the funds, to advertising, getting all the paperwork done. It's the same, like there was just super similarities, I would say. And he's like, yeah, just do that. And so I just did the mission trip as my project for that semester. And the things that I noticed that I either knew already how to do because of my job or that I was learning in class that made my job better. Yeah. Like there were so many of them that it was just like, oh, this is a great, like we need to put these things together more often.
Yeah. And I think and just to like tie it all together, the hardest part about all of it, and I think where people get uncomfortable when talking about business and talking about church, is just because money does become a conversation. And when a church is ran off of nonprofit, and when businesses a lot of time are for profit, it's like, okay, can you really pull these ideas that you've learned from business into the church? And my idea is going to be yes. You have to pull that in because, like we were talking about, for a pastor that's going to lead a church through something that's unknown, a lot of times business will open a lot of that stuff up, especially if you've owned your own thing or worked for a company that is trying to meet money goals. You're going to see how to actually operate with that budget that you have, because everything is based off of budgets, even in a business setting. It's not just spend. Like, no, you've got this amount of money that you're going to have to use. And so in a church setting, if we can figure out how to truly make the most of the money that we have and so on, then
using our resources wisely, being good stewards.
Yeah, exactly. It's the parable of the three servants, right? It's like, are you going to bury your money or are you going to go invest it somewhere else? Now, investing in the church usually looks more like spreading the gospel, right?
Yeah, or investing in people. Like, I really feel on that one, especially when we're taking care of our volunteers in a healthy way, that you're investing in those people and using your money for that. My big thing, and I bet a lot of listeners, most of my budget's food, because I'm feeding these kids, and because they're they listen better when they're full. Let's just put that one out there. We know that from school studies. But also, they might not get a meal at home. There's lots of reasons to feed kids for youth, but I think it's one of our biggest things that helps us. And so that's where my money goes, because it's one of the most important things I think I do. There's so many things that a good meal can do, and especially in that fellowship kind of way. So, okay. Do you think there were any pivotal moments or experiences that guided you towards where you are now? In other words, do you think there was a big moment when you were like, okay, God, like, I'm gonna veer a little bit more towards ministry, a little less towards business. But then again, you're kind of in the middle now. So, do you think there was a specific moment, or do you think that it was just kind of, okay, I'm listening now, I'll gradually do what you told me to do?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. The truth of it is, and this might be kind of controversial, but I will make this statement proudly.
Okay.
I don't think God actually cares what you do for your living.
Okay, I don't think that's
No, okay. Okay, cool. I don't know if God is actually caring about what you're doing for your living, or is he caring, but he is caring more about your heart posture in whatever you are doing.
Mm-hmm. Do you think? Well, I'm gonna say he cares about what you're, maybe not what you're doing for a living, but that you are taking care of your people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. There's that side of it. The other side I would say is, and I'm super evangelical, so in this aspect, because are you sharing the gospel in whatever aspect that you're doing? So for me, I have always gone where I think God is going to use me the most.
That makes sense.
He's started opening doors in the instance of doing our own thing now. But I have always had the feeling that no matter where he does call me, whether I do go to a corporate entity, or if I'm in a church, or if I'm in a small church, there's going to be a divine appointment there that I'm going to learn something from. Ministry is going to grow because of it, whether it grows numerically or heart-wise, etc. Yeah, I think the first time that I experienced that was when I was in college, my junior year, when I was at Blackwell United Methodist Church down there, the one in the Boondocks.
The booties.
I experienced that there when I truly grasped the gospel. And that's crazy to say that, working in ministry before you truly grasp the gospel, but God is profound in the way he does things, and he knows how to reach you specifically. And he knew exactly where I was. He knew exactly how he needed to reach me, how he needed to pull me forward. And so when I was out there and I fully grasped the gospel, that everything that, to quote Luke, the valleys were going to be made high and the mountains were going to be made low, right? When everything comes together and there's nothing that's above the other in any type of way. No king is more powerful than the peasant in the kingdom of God. No mountain is going to be higher than a valley in that instance, in the allegorical sense that it's being used there. And that's actually a quote from Isaiah also.
Is higher than the
I'm sorry?
I said no pastor is higher than
Exactly.
the
No pastor is higher than the janitor. There is no business leader. There's no CEO that is higher than his manufacturer in the eyes of God. And if you can step into whatever you're doing with that type of mentality and those eyes, like that specific lens over your eyes, everybody around you will get treated the same because they are all worthy of a gospel experience from you.
Let's see if you had any more.
I was like, man, I really felt like that was like, I was like, I don't know what else to say beyond that because.
That makes sense. I was thinking that, well, especially when you get to the point where everyone is treated the same, when we recognize that God has created every single one
100%
in his image for a purpose, all of that it does kind of switch our, what am I doing today? And I think you definitely can take the gospel in any job that you go to, because we need all of these other jobs. We can't all work in the church. Otherwise, there's no electricity in here and there's no water.
It's true.
And there's no food in the grocery store. Like, there's jobs for everybody, but it doesn't mean that when you're at your job, you can't be doing what God
Yeah,
wants you to do.
you're an ambassador everywhere you go.
Yes, actually, we talked about that in youth this week. So about when we go out and we're in our schools, and then we are mean to someone. What does that tell other people about
Yeah.
Christians? Because you say you're a Christian and now you're mean to someone. So what is that telling people about Christians?
Yeah.
So we have to pay attention to how we behave, because we are ambassadors everywhere we go. So, and I love that when we're in the church setting that we get to support all those other people, right? Because we're very fortunate enough to have this side of the job experience. And so I love that. Well, I love this conversation because I think we've had a lot of really cool topics today. I have one more question for you. Dun dun dun. Where did the name Clay come from? Because I had this big image of you were like, we're all molded from the dirt, and then you told me your email address, and it's your middle name. So where did Clay come from?
Oh, okay. See, now I have to like pull it out of the dirt instead of like, like bring it down. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's super funny. Clay.
Yeah. No, I had this like huge image of like this just awesome wording and like vision.
Yeah.
In it. So
yeah.
Okay.
So
where did it come from? The
Clay specifically came from the idea of us wanting to name our band after this really big view of God. Now this is crazy to explain it after you pulled that out. Clay is actually an acronym in this instance. It stands for Creator, Lord, Almighty, and Yahweh. And yes, and
this happens to me.
And there is a personal side that I was like, okay, since we are making a band, I'm sure members are going to rotate a little bit over time, and depending on life seasons and so on. So I wanted to maintain a little bit of ownership on it, and so my middle name that not many people know it's my middle name for sure. I did throw in there, but there's a much bigger vision for it than it just being anything that's tied to me, because I would never actually say that it's my middle name from a platform when we're leading worship or anything. The only way I'm going to explain it is how big of a vision that we have of God is. And it does tie into, yes, we were created from the dirt and we are going to return to the dirt, right? And so yes, there is the idea that it is putting us on the lowest pedestal and putting God on the highest pedestal that we can. But for the most part, it is to just bring vertical worship to God.
Awesome. Well, Justin, thanks for coming on today. I love this conversation. I bet we could talk way more about it. But that's the time we've got today. Please, y'all, be sure to go to studentministryconversations.org and find all of our former episodes and blog posts. And if you want to contact us, if you want to be on here, come and talk to me. Come and talk to the others, and get a hold of us that way. All of our socials are on there as well. And I think that's it. Okay, y'all have a great day. We'll see you later. Bye.